I think maybe, perhaps if I stand, the voice will carry a little better rather than going through all these heads. Okay, why did I come to Pemberton is why I've been asked many times, and I guess I should just go back a little bit in history to say that I was brought up in what was a very small community at that time. It was Port Coquitlam, and Louis Potvin was the only other kid that went to school there, I think, at that time. But it was very small. There were no streets per se, just dirt roads. But that was my background living there in the late 20s and through the 30s. So when I got out of high school, we had 2 teachers to teach the entire high school, so we didn't get much formal education. But I went into the Air Force and learned a lot, and found that when the war ended, that they would pay our way to go to university, a month for every month that we had served. So I had a couple of years coming, but I had no idea what to do. But one weekend I was out in Port Coquitlam visiting my folks, and I ran into the town druggist. And I thought, you know, that guy really has it made. He's got 2 cars in his driveway. He spends the afternoon over in the commercial hotel beer parlor, and he seems to make a living. You know, that is maybe a good thing to get into. Then I heard that George Cunningham from the old Cunningham drug chain was going to donate money towards putting in the first pharmacy faculty at UBC. So I thought, well, maybe that's what I should do, rather than go into engineering or something where you're going to have to compete with so many others. So that's what I did. That's how I got into pharmacy. And I don't regret it. It was a lot of work at UBC because I had to make up an awful lot of high school work as well. Anyway, I graduated and at a dance, who do I meet but a young lady, my wife, Pat, over here. And we seemed to hit it off, so we decided we would get married the following year. So that was 1951. We got married in 1951. Oh, we got married in 1951. We met in 1950, married in 51. And then, of course, was the start of our family. And the 3 girls were all born in Pemberton, where we first went. And Pat had said before we left Vancouver, she said, I'm a city girl. And she said, I like to go sailing with my dad and my brother, and I don't want to have to go off into the hinterlands anymore. I said, well, we want to be 100 miles out, so I drew a circle. Hope came into it, the Sunshine Coast did, and Pemberton. Well, Pemberton was a familiar name because there were always articles in the farm magazines and the different newspapers about the future breadbasket of BC, Pemberton, where the grass. A friend of mine and myself came up one day on the train. I guess this was in '63. And we got off the train, and all you can see is dust and gravel and the old wooden hotel building. The hotel building went as far as about where the front desk is now. All the part to the left of the beer parlor was. That was another lot, and there was a house on there which was moved down into the next block, down by Betty Mercer's. So they started rebuilding the hotel, but that's the way it was at that time. And there was a little Chinese restaurant at the right-hand side, the beer parlor on the left. So we'd had a pretty long dry trip on the train, so we decided we would better have something to quench our thirst before we started out looking. So we went into the pub and had a couple of beer. But anyway, we walked down to the bridge this way, and we walked up to the high school up this way, which they were starting to add on to at that time. And we got on the train. Oh, I guess I had contacted the bank manager in Squamish before we went, because I said, you know, we're kind of thinking about Pemberton. What do you think? And he said, well, why don't you go up and talk to Mr. Jack Graham? So we talked to Jack Graham while we were up as well. So anyway, we said goodbye to him. We went back, and so Pat asked me how it went, and I said, well, you wouldn't like it. So anyway, I had a call from Mr. Graham a while back, and he says, well, you know, why don't you bring your wife up? Let her look around. So I said, okay. So we went up, and of course Jack was such a gentleman, and he was so good with Pat, and took her under his wing and out to his wife for lunch and this sort of thing.